Hi and welcome back. In this video, we're going to learn about two Python keywords, and or. Let's start by asking the user for their age. Then we're going to determine whether the user has an age good enough to learn programming. So what we'll do is can learn programming, and we will say age is greater than 0. Here we have created a Boolean comparison, age greater than 0, and we have given it the name can learn programming. However, sometimes users can be too old to learn programming. So we can use the Python keyword and for example, age less than 150. And what this does is it says if the age is greater than 0 and the age is less than 150, then the whole thing is true. If the age is not greater than 0, then the whole thing is false. And if age is greater than 150, then the whole thing is false. So if we enter our age here, then we will get you can learn programming true. By the way, let me say at this point, there is no limit to learning programming. You can learn programming at any age. And that's because programming is all about problem solving, and it's not really all that much about learning syntax or working with difficult tools or anything like that. All right, now that we've got and out of the way, we're going to learn more about it in just a moment. Let's ask the user again for their age. And now we will ask them whether they are usually retired. So we will have usually not working. And this will be if the age is less than 18, people are usually not working. Or if the age is greater than 65, people are usually not working because they're retired. So then we can print at age, you are usually not working, and then usually not working like that. So let's run this. And if we enter 34, then we will get at 34, you are usually not working, false. If we run it again and we type 10, at 10, you are usually not working, true. Although you are going to school, which is pretty complicated as well at times. Now, there is a small problem with this Boolean. Usually, you don't want to write Booleans as negatives, because it can get quite confusing to read later on. So, ideally, you would want to have usually working instead. If you have a Boolean like this, then it's easier to think about. Just the same way that in English, double negatives can get quite confusing. In programming, working with negatives is an added strain on your brain that you want to avoid generally. So we can rewrite this to usually working, and what that means is that they have to be age greater than or equal to 18, or age less than or equal to 65. And that is when people are usually working. So if we run this, then we type 65, then at 65 usually working true. So that's unfortunate, but that is how it goes these days. So how does it work internally? Here we've got another function called bool. This is similar to int and str in that it takes in the value and converts it to a Boolean. So what will we get if we turn 35 into a Boolean? Well, you get true. So what if you turn the string Rolf into a Boolean? Well, you get true as well. So what happens if you change these to 0 and empty string? Now you get false. So in Python, there are some values that, when converted into a Boolean, evaluate to true or false. Most values evaluate to true, but things like 0, 0.0, empty string, and things like that evaluate to false. So here's how and or work for real. If you have true and false, what and is doing is it's gonna look at the first value. Is it true? And if the first value is true, then it's going to give you the second value. So we will say x equals true and false, and then print x. And what this is going to do is, again, look at the first value. It's true, so it gives you the second one. So if we print x, you get false. And this is very easy to double check with something that isn't true and false. So we'll do 35 and 0. And again, it's going to look at the first value, it's going to look and see if it's true, and if it is, then it's going to give you the second one. So you get 0. Remember, it knows that this is a true value because if you pass it through bool, it evaluates to true. So, and the way it works is it gives you the first value if it is false. If the first value is true, then it gives you the second value. So if we put 0 first and 35 after, again it gives you the first value, which is the 0. Or works in slightly the opposite way. Or will give you the first value if it is true. Otherwise, it will give you the second value. So, if the first value is true, it will give you the first value. Otherwise, it will give you the second value. So here it gives you 35 because 35 is true. And if you do the other way around, 0 is false, so it gives you the second value. Again, 35. You can use this in quite a lot of places, actually. For example, imagine you've got a name and a surname. And it just so happens that the user hasn't given you their name. So you can do something like greeting could be name or Mr. Surname. Assuming that you know that the person is going to be a man, of course. So you can then run this, and you get Mr. Smith. Why? Because name is an empty string, which means it is false, or it is falsy when you pass it through bool. So instead of giving you the first value, the OR gives you the second value. This is even better if you add in user input. Let's run this again. And now I'm going to not give them my name because I care deeply about my privacy, so I don't want to give them my name, but I will give them my surname. And then it prints out Mr. Salvatierra there. So situations like this one, which may seem useless to you at the moment, are actually all over programming. So knowing how AND and OR work internally can be really useful. So again, to recap, AND gives you the first value if it is false. And otherwise it gives you the second one. And OR gives you the first value if it is true. Otherwise it gives you the second one. Finally, you've also got NOT. And that essentially does the opposite. So not false is going to be true, and not true is going to be false. So this is how the not keyword operates. It goes in front of a Boolean, and it does the opposite of whatever that Boolean is. So for example, not bool of 35 will give you false, because bool 35 is true, so not true is false. If you do not of 35, you also get false, because Python realizes that not is something that you use with a Boolean, so it turns the 35 into a Boolean before applying not. I appreciate that this video has been a little bit confusing. Do bear with me as we go into more advanced programming territory, and if you have any questions, ask them away in the course Q&A. We're always there to help. Thanks for joining me in this one, and I'll see you in the next video.